My friends and I loved playing video games. We had tournaments all the time, and we always liked to try out the newest consoles. We were almost like a sort of clan. Every single Saturday, we played a video game and we'd have championships. It was so much fun. But before I go on, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. You do not want to miss out on any of these spooky stories. My mom didn't really like it though. She said I was spending too much time playing video games and was missing out on the important things in life. Usually, I just ignored her. She was my mom. Back then, I thought she was just trying to ruin all the fun. How I wished I had listened to her then. My friends and I played all sorts of games. Shooting games, GTA, Kingdom games, Battle Royale, you name it. We played it. We were quite notorious at our school for being the gaming geeks, but we didn't care. It was so much fun. Sometimes, especially on sleepover, my friends and I would play video games all through the night. Like, we literally wouldn't go to sleep. We were like gaming vampires. I see now that that was such a bad idea and was really bad for our sleeping schedules. But back then, I thought we were just daredevils. A lot of the time at school, I would find myself drifting off to sleep during class. Sometimes when I was in class, my fingers would start to grab a pencil case and pretend it was a gaming console with joysticks and buttons. My friends would always laugh at me when I did that. The thing is, I didn't even know I was doing it. I was so used to the movement that my fingers just did it on their own accord. Sometimes my fingers would be so sore, and sometimes I would even get blisters, especially on my thumbs. If you ever saw me at school, I would no doubt have plasters on all of my fingers from the broken blisters. I told you I was a gaming freak. It was junior year of high school, and my friends and I had saved up our pocket money to buy a new game together. I was on the internet one day and this ad popped up for this new VR game. It looked so cool. It was called Clashing Castles, and basically you had your own kingdom that you had to look after and try to protect it from other kingdoms. I called my friends and I told them all about it. They were immediately on board. We decided that we simply had to buy it. So we went online and ordered it. A few days later, it arrived at my door in this huge cardboard box. My friends and I loved playing it, and we kept the VR set at my house since I had the biggest room out of all of us. It was awesome. We could all play it at the same time since it had multiple VR sets. The game had a bunch of challenges, and we'd fight each other in battles and have diplomat discussions. It was so cool. Since it was virtual reality, we could see each other through the VR goggles as the characters the game had assigned to us. It was all medieval clothing and it was really fun. My character was this king called King Maximus. He had a long white beard and metal armor. I named my kingdom the Best Kingdom. Funny name, right? So far, my kingdom was the biggest, as I had seized territory from my other friends' kingdoms. We played it all the time. My friends basically came over to my house every day after school, and we'd play until the very last minute when they had to leave. But inevitably, as we spent more and more time playing it, I spent less and less time doing other things. Like spending time with my family, or doing homework, or going outside. Admittedly, my grades did go down, but the VR game was so fun, so I didn't really care. My mom did. She told me if I didn't decrease my usage and start focusing on my studies, she would take the VR game off of me. But why? I complained. Why do you have to spoil all the fun? This game is sucking all the energy out of you, she said. Just the other day, you forgot it was your sister's birthday. I frowned. Oh, yeah, I had forgotten my sister's birthday. But still, I didn't want to stop playing the VR game. It was too fun to stop. I asked my dad to tell her, and my dad said it was fine for me to keep using it. Let the boy enjoy his childhood, he said. My mom was furious, but she didn't want to start up an argument with my dad, so she finally relented, and I had the VR game to play to my heart's content again. My friends asked if they could come over on the weekends to play, so they came over on Saturday and we started playing in the morning. When we opened up Clashing Castles, we found out there was a new update available. I remember thinking that was odd. The game didn't usually do updates, and we'd already had it for over a year. But its description looked so exciting. It was called Ultimate Mode, and it said you could now kill the other characters. It gave you weapons to use and other cool devices, so we were really excited. We hooked ourselves up to the VR game and started playing. I was so good. I killed off kingdom after kingdom, defeating my friends' characters. We were all in the same room, so we could hear each other really clearly. But I remember thinking it was getting quiet. I hadn't heard some of my friends speak for a while now, especially the ones who had their characters defeated. It was pretty quiet considering there were 7 of us in the room, but I didn't focus on it too long as I was in the VR game. Now, I wish I had paid much more attention because what happened next scared the life out of me. Finally, my last friend was left to defeat and I managed to finish him off. I had won! I jumped up and down in excitement, laughing as the congratulations end card showed up in front of me. I took off my VR set, ready to celebrate, but then I gasped. All my friends were gone. The room was completely empty. It was as if they had vanished out of thin air. I spun around on the spot, confused. Where had they gone? It wasn't like them to just abandon me like that without saying anything. Maybe they had gone downstairs. I looked everywhere for them. They weren't in the kitchen, they weren't in the living room. They seemed to have disappeared. Finally, I asked my mom if she'd seen them, but she said she hadn't. I looked through the entire house. I checked the basement, no one. I checked the garage, no one. I checked the attic, but it was locked. I decided I had to text them, but they didn't even read the message. They had disappeared off the face of the earth. I thought it was some kind of prank, but it was so unlike them to do something like this. Finally, with no idea what to do next, I went back to the VR game, hoping for answers, and I was shocked to see a new message. Curious, I hooked up the VR set around my head, and the message read, "Congratulations, you have won, but at a price. Your friends are now stuck in the game. You have defeated their characters, and now their souls belong to Clashing Castles. Enjoy your victory." I couldn't believe my eyes. My friends were stuck in the game. I had killed them. I felt so guilty. This was all my fault. My friends were gone because of me. I ran to my mom begging her to help, and we looked around for them again, but it seemed like it was true. The VR game had taken my friends. I broke down crying. "This is all my fault," I cried. My mom consoled me, patting my back. There, don't worry, we'll find them." "No, we won't. Clashing Castles took them," I said. My mom looked at me as if I was acting crazy. I suppose I was. I never should have played the game. My mom sighed. "Don't you wish you could turn back time now?" I nodded vigorously. Yes, tears streamed down my face. If I could, I would never have spent so much time playing the game. It sucked my friends' lives into it, and my energy too. It was nothing but a distraction. "Do you want to play the VR game again?" she asked. "No, not ever. I never want to play that video game again." My mom smiled. Then she raised her head and called, "Okay, boys, you can come down now." Then, miraculously, my friends came bursting into the room. They were laughing at me, pointing fingers, but all I could do was gape at them with eyes wide open. I had no clue what was going on. "But," I said, "but the game took your soul." My mom chuckled. "No, it didn't. That was just me." I must have looked so confused, so she explained it all to me. My mom had hired my friends to teach me a lesson. First, she had installed a fake update into Clashing Castles, which now gave you the option to kill your friends. Then, every time I killed one of their characters, they would quietly leave the room and head upstairs to the attic. Once I'd killed the final person, I hadn't realized it yet, but the room had already been empty for a while. When I had asked my mom where my friends were, she had been forced to lie to me so that I would learn my lesson. Meanwhile, my friends had to hide away in our attic and wait for me to finally learn that the VR game shouldn't consume my life. They brought me upstairs and showed me where they had hidden for all that time. The attic was full of snacks and a TV and a mattress. "We were pretty scared when you knocked on the attic door," said one of my friends. "We thought you were going to find us." I remembered coming to the attic door and pushing against it, but it had been locked. I never would have thought my friends would be hiding on the other side. I turned angrily to my mom. "How could you do this to me?" Then I glared at my friends. "You too. You're supposed to have my back." "She was paying us," they said, as if that gave them the right to trick me like that. I looked at my mom with fury. "You needed to learn a lesson," she told me. I was angry at first, but I realized they were right. All that time I'd been playing video games, I hadn't realized just how tired I was. I'd forgotten the importance of staying in the real world. Sure, VR could be pretty cool, but it was the memories made in the real world that truly counted. To this day, I'm still grateful for my mom for teaching me that lesson. Who knows, maybe if she hadn't, I would still be playing that VR game as a grown man. Wouldn't that be embarrassing? Now, I didn't stop playing video games altogether. I gave myself limits, like only 1 hour maximum per day, and on weekends only 3 hours maximum. That might sound like a lot to you, but before then, I could be playing for up to 10 hours a day. 10 hours! Isn't that crazy? I've learned that it's okay to have hobbies and interests, but it's also important that you do everything in moderation. Once I started doing that, I realized I actually enjoyed spending time with my family. We would go to the zoo, play at the beach. I actually enjoyed the football team too, and I'm still loving it now. Actually, I haven't played a video game for at least a few weeks. Wow.
My intelligence defined me. People referred to me as the smart one before they even learned my name, Sandy. Because of this, I was always sent to the class for gifted students. But even those classes were too simple for me. In the 4th grade, I was already doing college-level courses in science and engineering. Easy peasy. Before I continue, please like and subscribe to this channel. I heard that if you do, you'll become very smart and ace all your exams. When I was 15 years old, my parents realized I wasn't being challenged enough, so they removed me from my old school and sent me to a school for gifted students. I felt more at home there because I was finally meeting kids who were on my level. They weren't ordinary high schoolers. Everyone was discussing ideas, inventions, or philosophical thoughts. I was thrilled. My classmates were super interesting. There were a few who really stood out. There was Jenna, who was already an intern at the Smithsonian, and Kristen, who could play 12 instruments. Gary had already designed his own submarine, and Kenya lived in a smart house, which she had programmed herself. Finally, there was Kelvin, who was every teacher's pet. But I wasn't too sure why he was there. He was so full of himself, and all he did was brag. I hated him. I quickly became friends with Kenya because I was also interested in programming, and I wanted to figure out what she did to her house. She was so cool. In fact, my whole school was cool. But there was one major problem. The main focus of the school was academics, and there seemed to be no room or time for fun. There weren't any clubs or extracurricular activities for us to enjoy. No swimming, no tennis, no robotics club, no band, nothing. It was all about learning and studying. One day our math teacher was running late, so I decided to have a class meeting. I'm quite a leader when I make up my mind. Anyway, I asked everyone to gather towards the front of the classroom, and I said, "Hey, guys, don't you think this place is super boring sometimes?" "Yeah," they all shouted. "Well, I have an idea. We should start some fun clubs. We could start with one, and we can make others. We can get the other students at the school to join too." I said, "You just came here and you're trying to change our school? I'm already here. What else does this school need? What's your problem?" "Anyway, what type of club?" said Kelvin. I wondered why he had to be so obnoxious and horrible. "Well, I think we should try to decide what our mutual interests are and create something which focuses on that." I replied nicely, even though I wanted to tell him to get out of my meeting. We brainstormed for a while. Some kids liked astronomy, while others thought an astronomy club would be too boring. Other kids liked paleontology, while others didn't. It took a while until Kristen said, "Hey guys, what's one thing you all do at home for fun?" Although there were different responses, it seemed that everyone mentioned video games. "Aha!" I said. "Why don't we start a virtual reality game club? Instead of playing, we'll make the games." "Yeah, that's a great idea. Plus, I'm already the best," said Kelvin. "We'll see about that," I replied while rolling my eyes. I wish I could push him out of the window. Luckily, everyone else in our class loved the idea, so we got started that same day after school. We asked if we could use the school's very well-equipped computer lab. It became our meeting room and a safe haven for us to share our creativity and ideas. The first few weeks, everything went well. We created fun games and enjoyed testing what other people had made. We also learned a lot. However, one day, a suggestion from Kelvin changed it all. It was just after the most exciting afternoon ever, and I suppose he just felt like ruining the mood. This stupid club needs more structure. We're all here, but we have no leader. I volunteer to be the president of this club. I'm the most talented and amazing person here anyway, he said proudly. Why? We're doing just fine the way we are, Kenya exclaimed. Well, how will anyone out there take us seriously if we don't have a proper structure? Anyway, who agrees to accept me as leader? Calvin asked. Half of the club members raised their hands, while the other half looked upset and confused. I think that Sandy should be the leader. It's because of her that we even have this club. Who accepts Sandy as the leader? Said Kenya. The other half raised their hands. Okay, fine. I have an idea. Since we seem to be divided, Kelvin and Sandy will work on a new virtual reality game. We will all test the game at the end of the month, and the person with the best game will take the leadership title. Kenya continued. Everyone agreed, and I smiled an evil smile. I'm going to make Kelvin sorry he was ever born, I thought. When I got home that evening, I got straight to work. I've never been an evil person, and I don't know what took over me, but I couldn't stop. I wasn't going to create an ordinary game. I was going to create something that would cause Kelvin to completely lose his mind. I drafted a plan and made a list of things I need to do. I had already read many books on psychology, and I knew exactly how to trigger people to make them go mad. I learned more about Kelvin and what made him happy, depressed, angry, and scared. What upset him the most was not winning, and I was going to use that against him. I made the game completely unbeatable for him. The goal was that he would continue playing because he kept losing, and that every time he played the game, he would lose a little bit more of his mind. After weeks of work, I was finally done with my game. Players would have to enter into a virtual world, which was designed like a maze. Traumatic events, which were unique to Kelvin, were placed at almost every corner. There were objects of fear, anger, and frustration. It was a masterpiece, a work of art. For ordinary people, it would be lots of fun. However, for Kelvin, I was sure that it would hurt him. He would become angry, quiet, delusional, and then finally, clinically insane. The day of the competition finally came. Everyone tried my game and loved it. They were all able to get to the end of the maze easily. The problem was that they loved Kelvin's game too. In the end, we had to try each other's game. Finally, my plan would begin to work. You go first, said Kelvin. Okay, fine, I replied as I placed the headset on my eyes and began his game. It involved shooting a bunch of cute, fluffy creatures and eventually beating a boss at the end. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't a thrilling experience either. It was so cliche. Good effort, I said while smiling at Kelvin. Now it's your turn to try my game. He put on his headset, and my heart started beating quickly. At first, he remained calm. Then his expression began to change. He looked terrified for a while. Then he looked angry. A few minutes later, he flung off his headset and screamed, "This game sucks!" You're not finished, though. Did you win? You have to make it to the end, I said. I'm just tired now. I'll continue tomorrow, he replied. We couldn't decide on the results of the competition as he hadn't finished playing my game. Every day, Kelvin would return to the room to play the game, and every day it seemed like my plan was working better and better. In the beginning, he became more snappy in class. I remember when Kristen asked him if she could borrow a pencil, and he threw his entire pencil case in her face, then grabbed it back from her and told her to get her own. He started to throw regular tantrums. Then he became sad. He'd usually give silly jokes during our classes, but he seemed too gloomy to do that anymore. After that, he just seemed to shut himself into a bubble. He refused to talk to any of his friends. He'd come to school, go to classes, then go straight to the lab to continue trying to beat the game. Part of me began to regret that it was all my fault, but then I remembered how much I disliked Kelvin, and those thoughts went away. The reality really hit me in the face when I saw Kelvin's parents in the principal's office one morning. I stood near the door pretending to look for something in my backpack while really listening to the conversation. I don't know what's going on with our son. One day he was normal, and the next he came back from school angry. After that, he's never been the same. He became really depressed, and now he barely talks. I heard him screaming in his sleep last night, and when I went to ask him what was wrong, he told me that he could see evil, wild animals all over his bedroom. I turned on the light and he continued screaming. We are very afraid, and we think this has something to do with your school, his mom said. Kelvin, do you have anything to say? The principal asked. Kelvin remained quiet. We think that something here is triggering him, but he won't tell us. If this continues, we may have to remove him and transfer him somewhere else. His dad said, "Yes, that's exactly what I wanted," I said to myself while grinning. The principal tried to assure them that there weren't any problems with the school and recommended that they seek psychological help for their son. This only made his parents angrier. I heard them getting up, so I ran in the opposite direction. The next day, Kelvin wasn't at school. I assumed that he had another episode and his parents decided to keep him home or transfer him. Perfect, I thought, until... "Sandy, nothing was really wrong with Kelvin until he started playing your game," said Kristen while we were all sitting in the computer lab one afternoon. "That's true," added Kenya. Everyone seemed to agree. "Don't be ridiculous. How on earth could a game cause someone to lose their mind?" I laughed. They continued eyeing me suspiciously. Later that week, I saw 2 police officers in the principal's office, so I used my usual technique to eavesdrop. "We've decided to launch an investigation into this school. Some of the students contacted us and told us that they believe that your student, Kelvin, has been deeply affected by a virtual reality game created by another student. We will be confiscating that game, and we will get back to you once we are done," one of the policemen said. I began shaking. This was not part of the plan. Kelvin was simply supposed to go away forever so that I could enjoy my new school. A few weeks later, my worst nightmare came true. My parents were called to a meeting with the principal and some high-ranking police officials. They had concluded their investigations, and I was found guilty of trying to cause grievous harm to another person. They asked me to reflect on my actions and the fact that Kelvin would never, ever be the same again. I was handcuffed and taken to the police station. There, we all had another meeting. Apparently, they decided that I was too young to go to prison. I wouldn't be taken to a juvenile detention center either. I was going to be sent away to a government facility in another country. They decided that although my VR game was devious, I was a mastermind who could be of use to the country in the future. I would be locked away for 15 years and then released to work for the government. I was completely crushed because I never envisioned such a dreadful future. I wanted to be free and happy, but instead, I'd be sent far away from my family, friends, and everything I loved. To make everything worse, I received a letter from Kenya a few months later. She told me that Kelvin actually had a huge crush on me, and he was only behaving like an idiot because he thought it would cause me to notice him. He felt that his leadership skills would have made him appear more attractive to me. I ended up destroying my life and the only boy who ever had a crush on me. It was a total tragedy.